Welcome to Forum 360. I'm Mark Welfley. Thank you for joining us today for our global outlook with a local view. What comes to your mind when I say the word electric vehicles, known as EVs? Admittedly, there's a lot to unpack. You may own one and like to talk about it. You may be worried about reliability or cost or range anxiety or charging time. You may be confused about the different types of electric vehicles, from neighborhood electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles to plug-in hybrid vehicles. Today we'll attempt to sort out the definitions, the facts, and specifics about electric vehicles and discuss the impact that Northeast Ohio has on the manufacturing, purchase, and movement forward of the electric vehicle market with Dana Myers, CEO of Myers EV, a manufacturer of electric vehicles right here in Northeast Ohio. So welcome, Dana.
Hey, thank you, Mark.
Welcome. So let's start with background. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to both want and design and build electric vehicles.
My father started a transformer company. We're just off the circle in Talmadge, Ohio, on 91, and I ran that for like 15 years, and I won an Entrepreneur of the Year award. I started up a division that sold to a publicly traded company, actually a couple of them like that. We were in Manhattan, Kansas, and we had a half a day free. My wife says, let's go in this bookstore. I love books, but I didn't want to go in. And here was this book called The Innovator's Dilemma: When New Technologies Cause Great Firms to Fail. Well, I just love that subtitle. So I pick up that book and I'm reading it, trying to figure out, how do I apply this to our transformer business? I mean, we were doing, some people confuse us with Myers Industries, which is, huge. We were maybe $45, $50 million in sales. Not terribly small, but decent size. Anyway, I'm saying, how can I apply this to the transformer business? And here comes a chapter where the guy says, hey, electric vehicles are going to be a disruptive technology. This guy wrote it in 1997. He goes, all the car companies are going to do it wrong. They're going to aim for 300-mile range electric vehicles, and they're going to be too expensive, and people aren't going to want to buy them. And here's a secret path, although he didn't say it that way, but I looked at it as a treasure map. He said, if I was running a car company and wanted to get into electric vehicles, here's exactly what I would do. And I thought, oh my gosh. Here's a way to create a multi-billion-dollar company right under the nose of GM and Ford by doing something that GM and Ford would never do, which is the transformer business we were in. GE, Westinghouse, ABB, they could have all done the stuff that we did, but it was too small for them. And in fact, we sold a big portion of our business to GE. First thing they did was cut out all the jobs that we were selling because they were too small for them. So I looked at this electric car thing as that type of a thing. And the other thing is I wanted to give a lot of money to Christian missions to fulfill the mission of Jesus Christ. And I thought, because I had all the money I needed to do what I wanted to do. I didn't have a lot that I wanted to do, but I had enough. And I thought I could create a lot of money for the kingdom this way. So that's sort of how that was the trigger that got me into it.
Okay, awesome. So I think what you said, I heard you say, is that the difference between where the path that General Motors followed and the path that this book prescribed was the 300-mile attempt to get a vehicle that would travel 300 miles on a charge, right?
Right.
And this path was less than that, but less expensive vehicle.
Yes.
That was more utilitarian, if you will.
Right.
For maybe a middle class or, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. So what role does, maybe you could speak in terms of like the entire market of EV vehicles, what role does Ohio or Northeast Ohio play? Are we prominent in manufacturing? Are we suppliers? How do we fit in?
You know what? This is a question that I don't know how to answer very well, because I think Donald Trump did electric vehicles a favor when he said, we're not going to subsidize them anymore. Because then everybody has to get real in their own mind and say, okay, how do we make an electric car that people are actually going to buy on its own merits? And what are the keys to make them buy that electric car? For example, Clay Christensen, the author of this book, he said, look, if I was going to start building an electric car, here's what I'd do. I would look for a group of people that don't need even 100 miles of range. He goes, because batteries are expensive. He goes, the only way you're going to get a new technology to break into a dominant market dominated by gas cars, for example, is you have to be cheaper than a gas car. So he goes, 300-mile range, the batteries are too expensive. But if we go with 100-mile range or less, find a group of people to do that. And so actually, after I read that book, I went around for 4 to 6 months looking for what business model is there that does this? Is there a group of people that's like that? And somebody pointed me, a guy named Rick Woodbury, by the way, pointed me towards the Corbin Sparrow, which is in Southern California. And I went and looked at it. Well, at the time, I'm driving a BMW 7 Series car. I go out and see this vehicle. It's one person, 3 wheels, 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back. It's enclosed, has steering wheel, car door, all that kind of stuff. And it had 30 or 40 miles of range. And I looked at that and I thought, who in their right mind would ever drive that? And the guy says, well, just get in and drive it. I drove it. Oh my gosh, the acceleration was, fantastic. Something, so that was fun. People just seemed to enjoy it. I mean, people would just come up and talk to you just because it was so different. And so he says, go talk to some people who own these things. So I went and talked to him and I said, what do you like about this? Well, that I can plug it into a 110, costs less than $20,000. I can drive it on the highway in the HOV lanes. So this is in California, the carpool lanes. Yeah. So they could drive by themselves in that. And I thought, hey, this is a cool idea. The company that was making them, Corbin Motors, had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. A receiver had like 50 of these shells. And I thought, you know what? Let's buy these 50 shells and let's figure out how to make these vehicles, because it's easier to start from something than nothing. And we'll figure out what we want to do after that. So that was sort of how I got started into it. What can Ohio do about this? I actually don't believe the government should be involved in deciding who's winners and losers in the marketplace. So I think if they just have a level playing field, I think you could probably build most of a car using and that's what we're planning on doing, sure. Except for the batteries. I don't know. I don't think there's any battery manufacturing in Ohio, but I think you could make a whole electric car almost entirely from parts that are made in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Borrowing on maybe some of the technology and some of the tooling that exists here that supports Detroit, possibly, or no?
Well, yeah, to build the kind of car that we need to build, if you build the cars the way Detroit builds them, you're going to have the same cost that they build. So, I mean, one of the key problems is, how does somebody like me that doesn't have billions of dollars at their disposal bring a car to market on tens of millions of dollars instead of the tens of billions of dollars that everybody else? Well, you have to build it using different manufacturing methods. But all those methods are right here in Ohio anyway.
And did you have to do some research to find out what those methods are, or maybe can you explain about a couple of them and what they are? Or is it proprietary? Or?
Oh, well, no. I mean,
what's the secret here?
So the number one secret. So this is the number one. I'm going to give you. There's 4 secrets to this. I'm going to give you all 4. Okay. Secret is, number one, we all have a 110 electrical outlet. You probably have. Do you have a garage?
Yeah.
And do you have a 110 outlet in there? So you can plug into a 110 outlet. Now the question is, how much energy can you get out of that 110 outlet? If you plug in a fairly efficient electric car, what time do you get home at night usually?
7.
Be personal.
6:37.
And what time do you leave in the morning?
About 8.
So you got 12 hours of your car sitting there at a 110 outlet. That's going to put about 60 miles of range into your car. Mm-hmm. Now, how long do you drive? Not how many miles do you drive in a day, but how many minutes do you typically drive Monday to Friday?
Less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, less than 2 hours.
Yeah. So the average in the United States is 60 minutes a day in the car. And 2 hours is probably close to 60 miles. So 80% of all car driving in the United States is less than 60 miles a day. So the electrical outlet that you have in your garage is enough to fill your car up for your daily driving. So now we don't need, as Goldman Sachs says, $1.6 trillion of electrical fast chargers all over the United States because everybody already has one. And the statistics show 85% of charging of electric vehicles is at home anyway. So if you just use your standard 110 outlet, that's 80% of your driving right there.
Okay.
So that's number one.
Secret one.
Number two, what about your long trips? How many cars do you have?
3.
3. So in America, 78 million people have 2 or more cars. So if you have Mary Barra, GM's president, CEO, I don't know what her title is exactly, head honcho. She was out in LA a couple years ago and she asked 1,000 people at this conference. She said, how many of you own an electric car? 1,000 hands go up. And then she says, how many of you own only an electric car? Only 1 hand still was up. So what does that mean? Almost everybody who has electric cars has a gas car. So if you need a long trip, you take your gas car. For example, I was talking to a potential investor down in Austin. He says, I could be one of your customers. I said, why? He goes, I have an i3, it has 62 miles of range. He goes, I drive that, I've got 77,000 miles on it, and when we need to go longer, we just take my wife's car. So that's 2 of the 4 things, but I'm afraid
Have more than one car, right?
Have more than one car. So a short-range electric vehicle plus that's how we get the magic under $25,000 electric car. I mean, Tesla said it was pointless. Elon said it was pointless for Tesla to make a $25,000 electric car. But when the average new car is $50,000, $25,000 is not very pointless to me or you or most people.
Sure. If you're just joining us, thank you for listening and for tuning in. My name is Mark Welfley. This is Forum 360. And I am here with Dana Myers. Dana is the CEO of Myers EV, EV standing for electric vehicles, which is what we're talking about today, electric vehicles. And I want to change gears for just a second to talk about rare earths. We hear a lot about lithium as the buzzword for batteries, and that leads us to China and a bunch of other conversations that can spring from that. Well, my question is, in your vehicle and in the vehicles that are in this range that you're talking about, are rare earths involved? Do you need them? How does it work?
You only need the rare earths when you're trying to pack 300 or 500 miles of range in an electric car. You need them for the motors, you need them for the batteries. But when you're only going 60 or 100 miles a day, you don't need a 500-mile battery pack, so you don't need the cobalt, which typically comes out of the Congo, and the reason people don't like it is because they have slave labor and 6-year-olds down in mines pulling this stuff out. Sure. And the rare earths from China, it goes in a lot of motors, but Tesla doesn't even has motors that don't use rare earths, induction motors. So there's no need to use rare earths for an electric car.
Are you talking about a battery, an acid battery is what you
no,
can
I'm
use?
talking about a lithium battery. And then I think the next step past lithium batteries is sodium batteries. Sodium's everywhere. And for a shorter range electric vehicle, it's perfect.
Okay, so in your vehicles you can use a lithium battery.
Oh yes.
Okay, so you do need lithium.
Yes.
For
oh
that.
yes, we
and
are
that's
using
a rare earth, right?
No.
No, lithium is not?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I never heard it under the rare earth
Got it.
category.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. So looking ahead, say 10 years, where is the EV market going to be? Like, put a spot on the dartboard and say, this is where I think it's going to be
if we're successful, I think it's going to be 1 electric car for every 2-car family. I mean, and you don't need it to be a long-range vehicle, and that's how you get the price down so that used cars now are $25,500. ideally, electric cars should be in the $20,000 to $25,000 price range, and you're using them for daily driving around type of a thing.
There's you can search the internet and find different stories about how many parts it takes to build a combustion engine, and how many parts it takes to build an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's significantly less. Is that true? I mean, how many more parts or fewer parts does an EV take versus a combustion?
I'm going to answer that in a different way. GM spends about $800 million setting up an engine factory because it's so complex and there's so many parts. To build motors, electric motors that only have like 1 or 2 moving parts, you can build them for $5 to $10 million setup. So I mean, going from a gas engine to an electric vehicle, it simplifies everything if you want to be simplified, because you just need that very simple motor that you don't need a lot of money to make, and there's motors all over the place that you can buy anyway, so off the shelf.
Because you hear people say, well, it's more expensive. I don't know how that's defined exactly, but with setup costs or not, but more expensive to purchase, to make an electric vehicle than it is, a compact car. And with fewer parts, do you think the logic would not be what I just said? Can you straighten that out for me?
Yeah, well, number one, when you're trying to use a 300-mile range or a 500-mile range, now you got, one guy in Norway, his Tesla needed a battery pack replacement. He decided to dynamite it because they wanted $22,000 to replace the battery. So now we've got a short-range electric vehicle, you got a battery, it's $2,000 to $3,000. Then everybody wants to charge fast like a gas car. So now, instead of running around 140 volts, they're up at 800 volts. All that extra voltage, higher costs for everything. So the more they try to make an electric car just like a gas car, the costs just skyrocket. That's why.
Insofar as design is concerned, is there a trade-off between cost and, you say, design, beside the battery, but cost and performance? Is there a trade-off?
All I know is that one-person, 3-wheel vehicle, you could smoke the tires. We had some television station come in, and it smoked the tires because it has that instant torque. So I don't think you're giving up anything, and you're saving money while you get a better performance, in my opinion.
Sure. I also hear, since you are our a myth buster here, that the amount of carbon emissions that are used to refine gas,
Yeah.
and then that are expressed out through a combustion engine is less than the cost to generate electricity that ultimately is used to charge a battery.
Well, so
Talk to me.
So you remember the whole thing about McDonald's hamburgers had worms in them, right? And that meme went around for a long. It was 20, 30 years ago, and that went around until somebody found out that worms cost more than the beef that they were using. So to answer your question, I looked this up specifically for today. If you take a Ford F-150 truck, and then you take the Ford Lightning, and the Ford Lightning is run on 100% coal power electricity, they both generate about 1 pound of CO2 per mile of driving. But now if you take that Ford F-150 Lightning and put it on the average electricity that's generated in the United States, it only generates 0.4 pounds per mile compared to 1 pound with a gas powered. So even on coal power, with the most inefficient electric vehicles that there are, which are trucks, coal power and gas power are the same. But when you look at our grid, which has a lot of alternative energy, gas, natural gas, et cetera, that drops like 60%. So electric vehicles across the board are cleaner than gas.
When I look at EVs like Teslas, as an example, they always seem to have kind of unique, more advanced tech features. Like, I've always wondered why you couldn't put an internet connection into a car that hits a tower and you pay $40 a month, and your car is, is wired up for the internet. Maybe it's there. I never see it. I never hear people talk about it. But when it comes to Teslas and some of these EVs, I see a lot of unique and different features. So I guess it's a two-part question. Are there vehicles, combustion engine, that value an internet connection or not? And what is it about those who do make electric vehicles that they want to put all of these unique features? So, two-part question for you.
So Tesla's trying to compete head-to-head with gas cars and make electric cars cool. So they put all the bells and whistles in them, and Elon's after that $1 trillion payday, and he wants to have cars that just run by themselves and a few people own them and everybody does a ride share, because investors love recurring revenue. Consumers want to buy the car and just be done with paying for things. And I'm going to pull this out. You know what? There's more technology in this that you can access, especially after Apple CarPlay, which GM's now getting rid of. You've got all. Do you want a car that gets you from point A to point B, or do you want a rolling computer? I guess that's the big question. And you've already got a computer that costs you, I don't know what these cost, $1,000 or something, fit into your plan. So I think cars are over-accessorized. So one of our engineers from MIT, and he says cars are just so over-accessorized. I mean, 6 out of 10 car trips are less than 6 miles. Do you need all that technology to go 6 miles?
Yeah,
no.
That may be it.
Yeah.
The research that we don't know, you'll spend less than 60 minutes in your car, and it might be two 30-minute segments on your way to work and home from work. Supply chain. Is there a very well-established supply chain for EVs in the United States?
I think the biggest issue for supply chains for EVs is the batteries, because we in the UK had the battery tech. No investors here wanted to invest in it, so China got it. Now China is like the world leader in battery tech. So GM and LG Chem and others are trying to set up, because of the IRA from Biden and everything, they're trying to set up, and Trump's duties, they're trying to set up battery manufacturing here in the United States. To me, that's the number one key thing.
Consumer sentiment. When you read, you see that in China, of course, and in most of Europe and even in the Norwegian countries, consumer sentiment is very positive towards EVs, and it's reflected in the sales of the vehicles and the percentage of the market that the EVs are now consume versus. But that sentiment is not here in the United States. Why?
Well, 2 reasons. Number one, gasoline prices over in Europe are like $6 a gallon, so electric cars make a lot of sense over there. Number 2, in China, I mean, the Chinese government just says we are going to have electric cars, and they've subsidized the heck out of it, and so they've got electric cars now that are way cheaper than gas cars. When electric cars get cheaper than gas cars here, you'll see a huge influx. But it's sort of been politicized to where you have to buy an electric car or you're not being a good world citizen because you're polluting and blah, blah, blah. Well, that doesn't really trip anybody's trigger. But Americans like to buy value. So when you have an electric car that saves you money when you buy it, and then it saves you money every time that you fill up from your 110 outlet instead of going to a gas station, that's when Americans are going to jump on board. And that's what we're trying to make, is that kind of electric car that makes financial sense without any government subsidies for people to buy, and more sense for them to buy and use than a gas car.
In the about 30 seconds that we have left, I'd like to know if there will be a time you think in the future, 10, 20 years, or I don't know, where the cost of the battery has, the full 300-mile battery has not only come down, and its capacity has increased to the point where you get 600 or 700 miles out of a charge, and that EV cars become reasonable in cost to, say, the average American. Do you envision that point in time?
So 2 things. Number one, EVs are still in their infancy. So in 10 or 20 years, absolutely. But when 8 out of 10 car trips are less than 60 miles a day, why do you need a 500, 600 mile range battery pack in your car that's dead weight to go 30, 40 miles a day every day?
So you can lessen your number of cars in your family from 3 to 2 or 2 to 1.
But that's not how it works. I mean, my wife has a car, I have a car. You have a car, probably one of your kids has a car, and your wife has a car. So anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Despite intermittent political headwinds and other factors, the appetite for EVs around the globe is increasing. In 2024, sales of EVs made up about 20% of all new vehicle sales. Ohio posted a 5% increase in EV sales in the first quarter of 2025. As infrastructure improves and consumer education leads to greater adoption, EVs will become a more integral part of Northeast Ohio's driving landscape and economy. I'd like to thank my guest, Dana Myers, CEO of Myers EV, for being here today, and ask each of you to keep your eyes, ears, and minds open until next time on Forum 360.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.